And welcome to the 21221 meeting of the Rotary Club of Brentwood. This year is chock full of fun dates, so just settle in. 21221. I am Keeley Hall, and I am honored to serve as your club president this year. Thank you for indulging me in my numerology. Dale Llewellyn has our invocation this morning, followed by Sarah Johnson, but Sarah, am I missing Sarah? We may have to come up with a substitute for Miss Sarah. So Dale Llewellyn has our invocation, and let me pick somebody. I don't know, somebody completely random. Alan Treadway. Alan Treadway, would you do the pledge and four-way test?
Yes, love to.
Yeah.
Love to.
It's been so long since you've had a chance at it.
Right.
All right, Dale, take us away.
All right, pray with me, please. Lord, thank you for the day that you have given us this day and bringing us together. As we meet today, we're not sure of what tomorrow holds, but we're sure of who holds tomorrow. We thank you, Lord, for having called us to this community to live our lives and to do our work for Rotary. Grant us wisdom, we pray, and foresight to discern what is for our betterment and for the betterment of all mankind. Strengthen us with your power for service, prosper us in our calling, help us with our needs, and guide us in our efforts as people pursuing peace. May peace and goodwill abide among us this day and always. And finally, we ask your blessing and healing and comfort for those who are sick and suffering. We pray for Bob Searcy, Larry Faust, Bob Bellenfant, Kay MacArthur, and Rob and Dottie Fiddler. We ask these things in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
0686.
All right.
All right.
Alan.
That's me. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and
justice for all.
Now, if you join me in the four-way test, first,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
That's it. All right, back to you.
And now our club secretary, Jane Covington, would normally introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians, but she is not able to be with us today. Her entire focus is quite literally on just keeping the trains running in our country right now. She's got some job duties to do. So our most regular member for the last 3 weeks, Zach Benner, will introduce our guests and visit. I'm just kidding, Zach. I will introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians. Zach is here. Welcome back, Zach.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
Good to have you. Let's see, who else do we have as I'm flipping through here? Got a couple of new members. We're glad to see you guys here. I think Zach is our only guest and visiting Rotarian outside of our speaker group. Is that correct? Am I missing anyone? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, Zach, we are happy to see you back, and I hope somebody has gotten you a new member proposal form at this point. If not, I'm going to email you one right now.
Sir, you took the words out of my mouth. I have not gotten anything, but I'm glad you brought that up. I was about to ask you. So.
All right. I will email you one before we exit our meeting today. I won't. I'll do it right after our meeting because I do not want to take any of my focus away from our speakers today.
Yep.
But immediately following this meeting, I will send you something.
We'll get it. Thank you, sir.
Let's go into Happy Bucks. Does anybody have anything that you are super happy about and you want to share with the group today?
I have a happy.
Beth's happy.
I'm
What are you
happy.
about, Beth?
Okay, so I have more than one child, but my daughter is applying to colleges right now and she's been accepted all over the place. So I'm very grateful. But there's a medical school in Alabama, UAB, that she really wanted to go to. For me, that's out of state, as you all know, expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of, we're just working it all out. But anyway, they want her so bad, they just sent her a huge, huge, huge academic scholarship in the mail. So we were like literally at 10 p.m. the other night, checked the mailbox, and we were jumping up and down. And she's like one of those students that, you know how you have kids that are really intelligent and kids that are hard workers. She is intelligent. I'm very thankful, but she's a hard worker, and it's her work ethic that got her this. I mean, she has done everything by the book. So I'm just so, while all the other teenagers are out partying, she's in her room studying. So she deserves this. I'm really proud of her. So yay.
Outstanding.
Congratulations.
That's a textbook example of happy bucks in honor of Bucks.
Yes, agreed. And that makes all parents happy.
All right, who else is happy? Somebody's dog is happy.
Okay, this is Sherry Cox, and that is Sassy telling everybody hello. Sorry. Sassy, hush.
We're glad you're happy,
I
Sassy.
am happy. I've got some happy bucks. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I am happy to say that I survived my second booster vaccine shot with minimal side effects 8 days ago. So I'm happy about that.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Who else wants to take a turn at the happy bucks? Mike.
I'll go.
All right.
I got some. I talked to a really good friend of mine, and he just got back from Honduras on a mission trip, and then he's like, Zach, you need to come in April. And I said, well, let me check on work because it's about a 10-day trip. I'm going to bring some medical supplies and help with some people down there. And I just got word from work. They're like, we're going to make it work. So we'll move around the schedule, and I'm really excited. I've been to Honduras when I was in high school. It was my first international trip. So I'm really, really excited to get back there. And I just love I love traveling, especially to third world countries. So really excited and happy about that.
Awesome. All right.
I have a happy bucks.
Yep.
I am happy to whoever filled in for me to do the pledge and 4-way test today because I got stuck on a call. So thank you to whoever did that. You're awesome. Thanks for covering as always.
I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to who led the pledge and 4-way test. The first 2 don't count. It might rhyme with Ballin.
Alan Treadway.
Hey, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, not a problem. I wanted to give a big shout out, a happy bucks to Tom Brady seeking another Super Bowl. You know, and I was a big Patrick Mahomes guy, so I'm a believer now.
I'll tell you what, I was a big Patrick Mahomes guy before the game, and I'm a bigger Patrick Mahomes guy after the game. That dude is ridiculous, but those Buccaneers were the better team that day.
That's true.
Buccaneers defense was the better team, holding
Absolutely.
Patrick Mahomes to 9 points.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Don't have a ton of announcements today. We do have a board of directors meeting on Tuesday. So directors, please make sure that that is on your calendar for Tuesday afternoon. We've had a few inquiries over the last couple of weeks about our meeting format. Do we think that we might be going back to a hybrid format at some point in the relatively near future? We're navigating that process. We will discuss that on Tuesday. That's probably our number one topic for discussion on Tuesday. So we will let you guys know how that shakes out Tuesday afternoon. Sarah, did you want to take a minute? I'm putting you on the spot, so if not, say no. Just a minute or two to update us on the Inclusion Playground.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Sure. So we've had some movement on the Inclusion Playground. We've gotten some donations to start coming in. We've had 3 this week. which we are very grateful for. We've got some conversations with there's a mobility company in Cool Springs that is helping the Franklin playground that they're doing, that also wants to help with ours from a financial support position as well. Don't know what it looks like, but lots of good activity, lots of good conversations. We also have a website, guys, that is up and running, which I will email out to the group here shortly. So please share it with your friends, share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. It is Brentwood inclusionplayground.org. So that way everybody can get to it. And if you also do BrentwoodInclusionPlayground.com, you also get to it because we bought both domain names, because in case somebody got confused. We also have a meeting coming up with our playground committee. We've gotten lots of people that have volunteered for different areas of engagement, such as grant writing, fundraising, marketing, social media. So we're coming together to go ahead and get started. So anybody that would like to be involved, we'd love to have you. Just call me, email me, and we will definitely find a spot for you wherever fits your skill set. So that's it for me today.
Beautiful. We are coming up on the really exciting part of that process. So that's super fun. All right, so Kip Dawson is about to introduce today's speaker. Before he does, I would like to do a procedural announcement. If you have a question for today's speaker, please go ahead and enter that into the chat box. You can either send that question directly to me there in the chat, or you can chat to everyone and let everyone see your question, whatever you prefer. And at the end of the formal part of the presentation, I will read through those questions that we have queued up in the chat box, and Ian will address those on a as time permits basis. So with no further ado, Kip, go ahead and introduce our speaker.
Happy to. Our speaker today is from Liverpool, England. He left school at 16 to join the Royal Navy. After leaving the senior service at the Royal Navy, he then undertook various roles in business in Asia, eventually becoming a chief executive at Pace Systems, which is a TV top communications type company. So he got a lot of experience in media, sports, and entertainment through those experiences. And then he became the board director of the Premier League team, Liverpool Football Club. And then he became a resident in Nashville in 2018 when he was named Chief Executive Officer for the Nashville Soccer Club, which currently has an 8-win, 7-loss, and 8-draw record, and is standing at the 7th position right now in our conference. And with that, I'd love to introduce Ian Ayre.
Thank you, Kip, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to try and share my screen, so bear with me a second. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, what I'd like to do today, and again, thanks for the opportunity to talk to everyone. I'm going to give you a little bit of background for myself and where I came from and how I arrived in soccer, and then I guess ultimately how I arrived here in Nashville and what we've been doing. I've been here almost 3 years now, and what we've been doing to build the team, to start the team, and I look forward to the future for the team and also the future for soccer here in the US. So really starting at the start, I guess, for me, as Kip said, I grew up in Liverpool, England, western part of Europe, one of the toughest cities, I guess, in that region. And Liverpool, itself, I loved coming from there. It was a tough neighborhood, tough upbringing, but soccer is king there, just like football is king here in a lot of parts of the US. In Liverpool, football is everything. And I grew up supporting Liverpool Football Club since I was about 5 years old. And every boy, just like here in football, I guess, every boy's dream growing up in that city is to play for the team. And as much as I'd love to tell you that I managed to play for the team, that never really happened for me. The nearest I got was here. This is a photograph from 1978. That's me there up on the back row, and I won a competition it was part of a media competition, and I won it, and I was one of the winners, and got to take penalty kicks at the halftime at a game at Liverpool at the stadium at Anfield in 1978. And that was as close as I got. And having realized that my career wasn't going to be, certainly at that point, playing for Liverpool, I decided to embark on something that was perhaps equally challenging. And I joined the Royal Navy and Royal Marines, and that was a fantastic experience for me. I spent 10 years in the military, traveled all over the world, various conflicts. And it's interesting that as I look back across my career now, and I think about the things that I learned in the military, all the normal stuff that you would expect, but there were 3 or 4 key skills and key messages I took on board. And it amazes me that even today or this week, in most weeks in my job here, these still apply. And the first one was to, and this is such an important one for a sports team, is to push yourself to your full potential and never give up. And if we look, back, whether it's across soccer or last year for Nashville Soccer Club or for all of us during COVID, that is such an important, thing to think about, that, you should never give up. You have to get through this. And I think we've all experienced a bit of that. And then also working with others, making you stronger. I'm a big believer that, my team at Nashville Soccer Club and all of the organizations I've worked at, you achieve so much more when you have a great group. And I'm blessed to say that right through Nashville Soccer Club, we have this incredible team, from the relationship with our ownership with John Ingram and other investors, right through my senior team and our players and our coach. We have such a great, non-egotistical group of people, and that's such an important piece of what we do. And then really recognizing everyone being different. And again, that was when you're in the military, everybody's slightly different, but you have to, for those of you who've served, you have to learn to get on with everybody. And that's never easy in life, right? But, when you get into a difficult conflict or different situation in the military, you need to know that everybody is behind you and everybody's in the same team. And then clear communication. And this is the one that I probably brought with me the most from the military through to other industries and ultimately to sport, is that it's so important to be a clear communicator. So I had this 10-year journey, and that, both in the military and then when I left, really took me all over the world. I spent time living twice in Hong Kong. I lived in Malaysia for 5 years. I spent 18 months in Shanghai in China, lived and worked in Germany, Spain, and obviously in the UK. And then really found myself with a crazy opportunity. I'd worked in the electronics industry, and the owner of that team that the company I work for, we did a big IPO in 1996 for almost $1 billion US, obviously a lot of money now and then. And the owner decided he wanted to buy a soccer team in England, a smaller team called Huddersfield Town. And having worked for him for about 8 years, he asked me if it was something I was interested in becoming part of. And that's genuinely how I got to working in sports, and worked in this, what we would call here, a sort of second league or minor league team. And then really followed that journey in sports. And I transitioned back to Asia and eventually to Malaysia, where I had my own business in sports marketing. And in early 2007, I got a phone call, and it was a was a completely out of the blue call where I got a call from the people who just bought, Americans actually, who just bought Liverpool Football Club. Two guys called Tom Hicks and George Gillette. And that phone call really sort of changed my direction and my life, really. And it was an opportunity to go back and work at Liverpool Football Club. So the team I'd grown up supporting my whole life, supported now for about 50 something years. And I guess it's a bit like being a Titans fan and living on the other side of the planet and somebody calling you, Amy calling you and saying, hey, how do you fancy coming home and running the team? And I remember calling my dad after I got the news and I said, I'm going to be coming back. I'm going to be coming home back to Liverpool. And he said, oh, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to run Liverpool. And he said, what, the city? I was like, no, the team. And there's this incredible journey. And I came back in 2007, ran the team for 10 years, incredible time. And for those of you who are soccer fans, or not soccer fans, should I say, to put it in perspective, one of the biggest clubs clearly in the world. You're buying and selling players that are real household names across the whole planet, get to meet some incredible people. Picture here with the very great Pele, and, worked with some of the greatest coaches in the world. Jurgen in the center picture there is still the coach of Liverpool that I brought there in 2014. 15, sorry, and just an incredible time for me and an incredible experience. And to put it in perspective of the size, I was talking to somebody there just a week or so ago. They now have over 60 million followers a month on social media for their soccer club, and they reckon to have somewhere around 300 million fans around the world. So it's an incredible, huge, giant of an organization, and I was very privileged to run it. Ran it for 10 years, and in late 2017 or early 2017, I kind of felt that everything I'd come to Liverpool to achieve personally, I'd achieved, and I've always found in my career that I'm a person that needs to be challenged. And I thought, what's the next challenge? So I decided to resign from the club and step down with great, retained friendships. And I always believe that when you leave an organization, you should always leave well. And, I gave them 18 months notice for my departure, and then we remain great friends. The team is now owned and was owned then at that time by Fenway Sports Group, who own the Red Sox and a bunch of other sports organizations, and great people. And I stepped away, spent some time in Spain. I have a house there, and then lo and behold, I got a phone call from a guy some of you may know, John Ingram, and connected with John, and we started to talk about this idea and this sort of vision that he had to bring soccer to Nashville. And it was incredible. I wasn't really sure it was what I wanted to do. A lot of my friends in sports were like, you just ran one of the biggest clubs on the planet. Why the hell would you go to Nashville for Major League Soccer? And I was kind of asking myself that question on the flight over, but then a number of things changed. One was I met John Ingram, and he is an incredible individual, and particularly his vision for this team really resonated with me, which was that he wanted to build a team in Nashville, for Nashville, but for everyone in Nashville, and I think soccer, whilst I absolutely love football, hockey, baseball, I think they're all fantastic sports. For me, this is probably the most wide-reaching sport across so many different demographics and communities. And John saw that, and that was part of his vision, that, this new Nashville with lots and lots of people moving here. What a great sport where, particularly for people like myself who come from another country, this is, in every other country in the world, this is the number one sport. So a great opportunity. John was one of the big reasons I wanted to come. The opportunity to build an entire club or an entire franchise from the ground up. If you do what I do in the world, then those opportunities don't come very often. And then thirdly, and importantly, Nashville, what a great city with a great, vibrancy and so much energy and so much going on here, and seeing what the Predators have been able to achieve. You know, John said something to me on that first day I was here, which is he said, I'm going to take you to a hockey game, and I want you to bear in mind that 20 years ago, people couldn't even spell hockey in Nashville. And it was the day he took me, was game 2, 2018 of the playoffs. And we arrive at Bridgestone Arena, and there's some people smashing a car with a hammer, some ritual. And then we get in the stadium, there's thousands outside, and stadium was full inside. And it suddenly dawned on me that, you know, we can really bring soccer here and make a difference. And, you know, the individual parts of that, of course, were, you know, at the time, a minor league team, Nashville Soccer Club in the United Soccer League, but then the opportunity to build an MLS team, Nashville Soccer Club, and to be a part of MLS as the expansion, and a hugely exciting project. And, you know, the important thing then was to start to put this thing together. And the foundation of what we've built really started with this slide. And on the, as you look at it on the right, on the left-hand side, as you look at it, really they were the values that we established. So we started to ask people in the city, people at other teams, people in the MLS league, you know, what do you think when you think of Nashville, and what do you think when you think about bringing a soccer team, and what do you think we should represent and be for? And we came with these six values, came up with these 6 values: ambition, inclusivity, community, creative, authenticity, and integrity. And I've been in a lot of organizations where it's easy to write those values down and much harder to live by them. And we do a great job, I think, of this, and they play such an important part. And, you know, one of the people who works in my senior team, Lindsay Paola, I always joke with her that, you know, as well as being the chief of staff and lots of other things that she's involved in, she's also the values police. And she comes to me on a fairly regular basis if she sees something we're doing or saying or the way we're operating and doesn't feel that that is in tune with our values, because it's so important to live by those. And it's a good buzz. And then on the right hand side, as you look at some of the values that we started to instill into our youth academy. So we built a youth academy which is now completed at Curry Ingram School here in Williamson County. And, you know, as the young players will come through that facility, we will basically be trying to develop players from about 9 years old upwards through a journey over the next few years, you know, with the ultimate goal of seeing somebody from this area, from Tennessee, come through that system and pull on a jersey and play for Nashville Soccer Club. And it's free to attend for those who are selected. It will offer education as well as soccer education. And it's a really independent but really formative part of what we're trying to build here. It will take some years to have its real impact, but you know, these values on this side are the sort of things that we want to instill into those young players. And we're really building something that's a legacy for everyone in Nashville. And, you know, I mentioned that John had said that we want to build this for all of Nashville, and that's really true. And if you come to any of our games, unfortunately, we had one amazing game at the start of the season with almost 60,000 people in our inaugural game. And then for the rest of the season, trickled people back slowly, but we're getting there as everywhere is. But one of the things you'll notice at a Nashville Soccer Club game is there's such a rich mix of audience, very different communities, different age groups, families, you know, people on their own, people having fun, crazy people in the supporters section, right through to young kids enjoying, you know, being a part of what soccer brings. And I always say to people that if you've never been to a soccer match, it's different, say, to football. It's probably closer to college football than NFL in the sense that when you come, you're not really a spectator, you're a participant. You know, we're trying to get you out of your seat, we're trying to get you singing our chants, and we're trying to get you really involved in the game. And that's a big part of what we're trying to build. And the community is such an important part of that. And this was day one, 2020. So the first day of our inaugural game. And we wanted to start of it with the start of our community program. And in this photo, we launched 100 trees that we planted in and around Nissan Stadium as part of a community initiative and then had players involved. Obviously, a few days after our inaugural game, of course, the city was hit by a tornado, which, brought everyone to their knees. And then, important for our players and staff to be out there helping to raise money. And then, of course, a week later, just a week into our inaugural season, the whole country gets shut down. And again, important to deploy our team and our players and our staff in the community. And then, one of the things that you really need to do in a city that isn't a predominantly soccer city is start to build facility for people in this less affluent areas to have access to this sport. And it's a pretty easy sport to get. Once you get going, you need a couple of goals and a ball. You don't need a whole lot of gear, as those of you who have played know. And I'm pleased to say that this image is the second of 2 mini pitches that we've already, almost completed the second one here. The first one is at the Magruder Centre in North Nashville, which we did over a year ago. And this one is just going into place now. And we're hugely excited about this. And it's part of a program we want to extend across the city as we go forward to bring, access to soccer to people in these communities. Just to summarize that first year, as it relates to the community, we were incredibly proud in a first year of a team with so many challenges coming our way, not just soccer, to have raised over $250,000 and put over 500 hours of community service. It's been an important year for us, and it sort of sets the tone for how we want to be perceived in the community. But it was also a huge year for the soccer team, despite all of the challenges. That first game, 59,000 and a couple, and we broke the state record for soccer. So nobody had a crowd that big for soccer in the state. I hope we keep doing that. We conceded the fewest goals in MLS history for in regular season for an expansion team. And I think most importantly, I won't read through the slide, but to say we reached the semi-final of the playoff for our conference in our first year ever in existence, and were beaten only by the team that went on to win the championship, is such an incredible achievement. And everybody who was involved, including our fans, who, despite all of the challenges and being unable in the most part to come to games, still stuck with us and supported us, as did our business partners. It was a huge achievement, not just for us, but for everyone connected. And then, we have to look forward now. So we come into 2021. We're excited about the season. As it says here, we've had a couple of our players called up recently for their national teams, which is incredible. Walker Zimmerman, who was one of our real stalwart players last year, playing for the US national team, and Alistair Johnson, who was I suppose the MLS equivalent of the college draft, which is very different to the football college draft, where these are real rookie players that are really just coming in to start learning the game at a professional level. But Alistair came in and immediately found a place in the team and never lost that place. And he's been a real superstar for us. And so really fitting that he should get given an opportunity to represent Canada and called up for their national team. And, we're in the middle of preparing for our pre-season right now. Our season will start on April 17th. So players will start to come back for pre-season first week in March, sorry. And then we'll start reintroducing all of those things that we have to have in a COVID world. So all of us getting tested every other day and making sure we're wearing masks in and out the facility, and lots of different social distancing things other than the norm, and really just trying to bring the team back safely and avoiding any outbreaks of the stuff that people have seen across different leagues. And we're also waiting to establish our roster for changes. We've been through the main drafts here that we have in MLS. So expansion draft, waiver draft, and super draft are all complete, and we've had some big players that come in. We've signed a few new players in recent weeks, so very excited about all we achieved in 2020, but bringing particularly more offensive power to our roster. So I think everyone, our fans, ourselves, even our coaching staff, are excited to see the players back, see them start to gel together, and then see us start to get out onto the field for the 2021 season. Obviously, the other big piece of news that's all been associated with this team for a couple of years now is the stadium. And I'm pleased to say that we had, I think it's fairly well documented the challenges we had in the journey on this stadium. But really, since I suppose the start of the fall of last year, we got through the final sort of hurdles we were facing, and really have seen an incredible amount of energy go into this now. Concrete installations, steel installations, begun, and that was showcased online and virtually recently, and that's really moving at an incredible pace. And every time I go down to the site, or if you drive past the fairgrounds now, you can literally see this building start to rise from the ashes, if you like, and of the hole we dug, and the concrete being poured is incredible. Visually, it's really, really, really incredible to see. And as it says here, by July 31st, the steel structure will be in place, and that will mean that you'll really be able to see the size, the scale, and the scope of this stadium for when it's finished. And it's important to say as well that in the neighbourhood this is going to be in, this stadium isn't perhaps as glam looking or as glitzy as some stadia that you see nowadays. Not so much glass, but more brick, wood, and steel that we felt in design and concept fitted better into the Wedgwood Houston area. I always use this phrase that we're building the biggest house in that neighborhood, so we want to be a good neighbor that respects the community there. This is actually an older picture. It's about a month old now, but you can see the size of the pitches below grade. So you'll go down, you'll come in at the mid-level of the terraces and go down to seats down to the field. That large concrete pour at the bottom half of this picture is where the south stack behind the south goal will be, which will where all the locker rooms and offices and everything else located. But as I say, this is a month old, and I wish I had the most recent picture to put up here, because I think you'd be staggered at the size of the difference just in a month's time. Some others here of the pours, you can see in the bottom photo there, you can see the sort of start of the concrete being poured for the rake for the seating, and the concrete pour. These concrete pours are happening now almost every 2 or 3 days, and really vast amounts of concrete being poured. I was there last Friday, and for one of the pours, they had 140 concrete pouring trucks come in just for that single pour. So incredible piece of machinery, on time, on budget, still designated to open in 2022. So we're hugely excited about this, as you can tell. And then looking at the interior, one of the things that we really wanted to do with this stadium was not build something that becomes something that is available for people to use on game days only. And so with that in mind, we have 3 major clubs on one level and then another club at the upper level. And the 3 clubs on the first level, we designed to be very different in their fit out and experience. So this one is kind of designed, this is just a concept, but designed to kind of mirror that, if you like, the Nashville or Broadway honky tonk type theme. And the idea on game days, this would have live music, lots of good beer choices, and really be a premium product, but with a real Nashville feel about it. But on non-game days, the ability for organizations and conferences and other people to bring this to life as a Nashville experience. So, really fantastic way to experience Nashville or Broadway, but in a sort of walled environment. And then our center club, which is the most premium, the premier club here, will be, opulent, great food, really great experience, kind of golf club type fit out, and really excited about this. And this club's on sale now. I'll talk about that in a little while. And one of my colleagues is on the call, our head of VP of ticketing and hospitality, Chris Gallagher, and I'm sure he's happy to take any questions or names and addresses if anyone's interested. But this was the first, other than the suites and our loge boxes, our suites and loge boxes we put on sale first. The loge boxes sold out in 48 hours. Suites, I think there are a couple left now only. And this premium club we put was the first of the clubs we put on sale just a week or 2 ago. And I think there's less than 100 memberships left now. So really exciting for us to see that, you know, the uptake of these, and these are the only ones that have been on sale so far. But the demand has been huge. And then the final club on that level at the south end of the stadium will ultimately be the largest sports bar in Nashville. And this will have that big, you don't really get the size and scale from this photo, but this will have wraparound screens. All the walls will be screen covered, and you'll really get a rich sports experience in here. And again, whilst it'll be an incredible experience during game days, you can imagine Preds watch parties, Titans watch parties, playoff watch parties, all available here, different times, you know, when soccer isn't being played. Oh, sorry, I went forward a couple. Sorry. Excuse me a second, I just need to go back a little. So I was saying that these things have been on sale, and, you know, talking about the fact that lots of these have sold out quickly, and, you know, only a handful of suites remaining. And I think that's an important thing you'll see in the media, and you'll hear in the media in coming weeks and months, that this thing is moving forward rapidly. And, you know, would encourage people, if you see businesses or hear of colleagues and others looking to be involved, you know, we've been pleased, but also a little surprised at the height of the demand. And I think it's a great indication of how soccer is doing. You know, we've sold almost 1,000 new season tickets for the 2021 season, more than we'd sold for 2020 for our opening year. And when you think that we only played that one huge game with a big crowd, and then since then have had limited access for fans, I think it really sets the scene for, you know, how much energy and demand there is for soccer. Final shot here of the stadium, looking back over Nashville. I think it's going to have a great place in the city. It could be a great landmark, be viewable or visible from I-65, and, you know, I think it's going to be a really important addition to the stadium and stadia and sports facilities in Nashville, and you know, going to be a great year in 22. And then finally, I just wanted to close by talking about how I see soccer in the US going forward. I mean, for MLS, you know, this is growing every year. This year we'll see Austin. Obviously, last year we joined Nashville and Miami, both joined as new expansion teams. Austin will join this year, and hot on their heels, you've got St. Louis, and you've got Charlotte, and then Sacramento. That's work in progress. So, you know, the league itself will get to 30 teams. It'll probably go further than that in the future, I would imagine. But, you know, and every metric that you think about in Major League Soccer is growing year on year, whether it's TV audiences, people attending games, the amount of money being spent on players, the amount of money being, you know, players being sold for, you know, I think the biggest so far, about $25 million for a player going from Major League Soccer overseas, and big money being paid for big players coming into the league. So it's growing, as I say, in almost every metric, and I think that'll continue as we move forward. And then, of course, with the United States being part of the three countries hosting the 2026 World Cup, I think we all believe that, you know, when that happens and the US and Mexico and Canada have their part to play in that, I think that will shine a bigger light on the domestic game as much as the international game. And I know there's a whole bunch of people, and we're involved trying our best to get one of those games, you know, for Nashville to be a host city for 2026. But regardless of that, I think that time in the future, that tournament in the future will really shine a light again, as it has done in the past, on soccer here in this market. And I think you can see another huge climb for this sport, and the revenues associated with it, and the attraction of great players. And, you know, I think that all bodes well for 2026 and beyond, and for the game and beyond. And as I said before, you know, we're hugely proud of what we achieved in 2020. We won't be sitting on our hands. We'll be working equally hard to continue to improve and continue to make Nashville proud of our soccer team. And, you know, as I say, I grew up, you know, in that first photo, disappointed that I couldn't play for Liverpool, but I got to run, you know, 5 different soccer teams, and now very proud to be running this one in Nashville. And that's kind of my journey and our journey, and happy to answer any questions. And I hope that was informative.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. We do have a few questions. Let's see. Could you talk about the academy concept so prevalent in Europe, and tell us what you think could be done in the US to make soccer more affordable for kids? You alluded to some of that earlier, but even on an MLS level, could you go into a little more detail?
Yeah, so all of the Major League Soccer teams have youth academies. I think the fundamental difference, I think, in this country, certainly compared to my growing up in England, is youth soccer in England is free. I mean, you may pay a very small, I mean, like a couple of dollars towards something or other on a game by game basis, but it's really very cheap and it's accessible to everybody. Whereas a lot of youth soccer here is pay to play. As you all know, our academy system and the MLS academy system in general is designed not to do that. So let me talk about our academy, because it's kind of similar to most, which is that we build this academy infrastructure and we will create these teams at different youth groups going up through the ages. And the idea is really to really spot the best talent in and around Tennessee and in some cases beyond. But we have an exclusive right to recruit kids in the Tennessee market. So no other Major League Soccer team can take a kid from Tennessee without our permission. And what we wanted to create, and John wanted to create, was something whereby it was accessible to everybody. So if we see a kid playing for his school, or playing in a pay to play, or playing in a kick around on a field, to be honest, as long as we can, you know, we will have a whole raft of different ways of spotting talent. But any kid that we bring and offer an opportunity our academy to, there is no charge. So that a kid comes into the organization, he will be coached, his uniform will be provided, he'll travel with the team if we go on tournaments, and it's all inclusive. And even if we bring the kids into the school set, so at Curry Ingram, we're also building a separate part, or going to be operating a separate part of the curriculum purely for academy players that we might bring, not for every kid, but for those who need to come, that maybe are, you know, further across the state, that can't come easily to practice from Knoxville or elsewhere on a regular basis. There will be an opportunity for schooling and boarding, and the boarding facilities are still in construction at Curry Ingram. So the exciting part of that is it is for everyone, genuinely. There is no barrier to entry. The only barrier to entry is being good enough to be selected. And that will only come from playing in another organization, whether it's, as I say, at your, you know, junior high school or wherever you're playing, and you get spotted by one of our scouts. So it's a great system. It's deployed across the US. And then we will also, the other strand to it is we will also, you know, we'll have what we would call affiliates. So teams that become affiliates of our academy, that really will become some of the hunting grounds that our scouts will have to spot players. And some of those, again, will be pay to play and some of them won't. And, you know, part of being an affiliate will be that if we find a kid that is struggling to play in a team, but needs game time other than the academy, then we may have the opportunity, almost like a scholarship, to place a kid whose family couldn't afford for him to play in a pay-to-play organization, to play more games there, as well as attending and playing in our academy group. And as I said before in the talk, the ultimate goal is to develop kids up through the system, and that ultimately they pull a jersey on for Nashville. And if I go back to my time in Liverpool, when I joined Liverpool in 2007, there was a young player there then who was 9 years old called Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's now the regular starting defender for Liverpool Football Club. You know, won the Premier League, Champions League, and World Club Championship last year. So So it works, you know, and there's lots and lots of stories across world soccer of that type of journey of a young player being spotted at 9, 10 years old, brought into an academy system and making it to the big time.
Thanks, Ian. And we have several stadium specific questions that I'm not sure that we're going to get to. I'm gonna maybe hold off on those. And I, as a lifelong Texas Rangers fan, have so many Tom Hicks questions, but I'm going to hold off on those. What I do want to get to this question because I think it's really good. When will we know if FIFA picks Nashville as a site for the World Cup game? And as a follow-up to that, could you give us a scope of the economic impact of having a World Cup game in our city?
Yeah, it's actually a difficult one for me because it's not really, it may sound surprising, but when you think about it, not really. We're not, as Nashville Soccer Club, we're not that involved in that process. The city, so Butch Speed and the CBC, the city are very involved in it. US Soccer obviously is very involved in it, and MLS to some degree, but less involved in it. I think, here's what I know. I know that there's been a big submission on behalf of Nashville already. One of my staff, my VP of operations attended a recent meeting with some US soccer officials to look at the US sort of soccer plan. I don't know the date when they will ultimately choose the venues. It's going to be a tough one for any city. I think when you think about the fact that this World Cup will be spread over 3 countries, and then even if you just take the US as one of those 3, you know, think about the stadia that exist now in this country. I mean, most of these games will be played in NFL stadiums. So, you know, think about some of these new stadiums that come online, SoFi Stadium and, you know, the US Bank Stadium in Minnesota and Atlanta. And, you know, these are, I think it'll be a hard slog for Nashville to get there. That doesn't mean we've given up. I just think that, you know, it will be interesting to see what, I think the thing that's in Nashville's favor is that I know from having been involved when the UK looked at the World Cup, and also having been in Asia when Japan and Korea hosted the World Cup, is that one of the things that FIFA does is, obviously you have to have a stadium capable of hosting, but they also look at, because it attracts literally hundreds of thousands of fans to each city that is a host, they start to look at hotel infrastructure and what those fans can do to be entertained when they're not watching soccer. So I think that's a big plus for Nashville. I think the vibrancy of this city, the fact that it's used to hosting many, many people traveling in on a weekend and entertaining them, I think that's a huge plus in their favor versus some cities that may not have that level of entertainment and infrastructures, hotel infrastructure. So it's a really hard one to answer, as I say, but I think where we're probably not the top of the list in terms of stadia, and our new stadium wouldn't be big enough for a World Cup fixture. And like we're not bidding as Nashville Soccer Club. If it was in Nashville, it would be at Nissan Stadium. But you know, I think, as I say, where we don't perhaps have one of the best stadiums in the US, in Nashville, what we do have is a great city for entertainment and support, and that could win the day. And regardless of all of that, I think the fallback potentially also to think about is in the weeks prior to the World Cup starting, most of those national teams come into the US or come into market and will want to play kind of build up friendly matches as in the run up to the World Cup against similar opposition. So if somebody's going to play Brazil in the World Cup, they might want to play another South American team in a game prior to that. And Nashville Soccer Club at our new stadium could be a prime opportunity of venue to host that type of game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're kind of out of time, so I'm going to run through a couple of lightning round questions. Are you up for a lightning round session?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Turf on the new stadium, synthetic or natural?
Natural.
All right. What's more important when building a stadium for soccer, sight lines or decibel levels?
Sight lines.
All right. All right. And finally, my most important one, I gave the whole club homework. I made them watch Ted Lasso. Thumbs up or thumbs down for Ted Lasso?
Big thumbs up. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
You're kind of the anti-Ted Lasso. You're coming to a country that doesn't know your sport and you're trying to teach us.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm probably Ted Lasso when it comes to football.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ian. We have some suggestions in the chat box that our nonprofit club that we have, buy a suite. So we'll see if we can get that going. All right, let's wrap up for today. We are out of time. Thank you, Ian, for joining us and speaking. Definitely do hit up the sales team there at Nashville SC for tickets, season tickets, suites, all the things. Closing announcements. Sherry Coss's husband, Cliff, has an upcoming procedure, a stent and a heart valve replacement on February 19th. So please be mindful and in prayer for Cliff. I don't think there's anything else. Is there anything else from the club members for the sake of the club today before we adjourn? All right, it's 1:03, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep serving. We are adjourned.